public figures who were secret serial killers. Let's get straight into it, man.
3rd, 2009, Colonel Russell Williams of the Royal Canadian Air
Colonel.
Force was formally appointed Commanding Officer of Canadian Forces Base Trenton,
Oh,
the
okay.
largest and most
Canada.
strategically vital air installation in the country. He was immaculate, respected by every
Immaculate.
superior who had ever assessed him. He had flown Canadian prime ministers across the country. He had
Okay.
piloted the VIP aircraft carrying Queen Elizabeth II during her
Oh.
2005 royal visit. He was, by any measure,
He was
the model of
important.
military excellence. Within weeks of his appointment, he broke into a neighbor's home and stole underwear from her bedroom drawer.
What the
Williams
fuck?
had begun his crimes in September 2007, nearly 2
Damn.
years before his promotion, breaking into homes in the rural community of Tweed, Ontario, photographing himself in stolen lingerie.
Yo, what the fuck, gang? You would steal lingerie and take a picture of them like this? What type of nut shit is this?
Belonging to women and
You
young
can't
girls.
do that with a
He was
serious-ass
methodical
face,
and
gang.
entirely undetected. He was, after all, a man whose professional life required complete mastery of operational security. In November 2009, Corporal Marie-France Comeau, a 37-year-old woman who served directly under Williams's command at CFB Trenton, was found dead in her home. She had been
Nice.
sexually assaulted and asphyxiated. Williams had noted that she lived alone the one time they had previously met. In January 2010, 27-year-old Jessica Lloyd was abducted from her home. Her body was later found on a rural property.
Oh, this
Williams
nigga
was caught not
Russell's
by any grand
sick.
forensic breakthrough, but by tire tracks. A police checkpoint near Jessica Lloyd's neighborhood had recorded vehicle impressions in the snow, and they matched a set belonging to Williams' truck. Ontario Provincial Police Detective Sergeant Jim Smith then conducted one of the most extraordinary interrogations in criminal history. In under 5 hours, the colonel who had flown the Queen went from composed senior officer to confessed murderer. He pleaded
Damn.
guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 sexual assaults, and 82 counts of breaking and entering. His uniform was
Damn.
burned. His medals were destroyed. His commission was shredded. The sentencing judge declared him sick and dangerous and said his
Yes.
wickedness had no equal. Williams is currently serving life in a maximum security prison in Port Cartier, Quebec. The Canadian military, which had trusted him
Like,
with
what makes a person just want to start doing that, bro? Like, he had, like, what everybody would like in life, you know? A good military officer, and then he just ruined it all for doing that. Feel me?
operations and its most
I don't even know
distinguished
how you could
passengers,
hack him, man.
was left to explain how a
Don't stand
predator
that
had
shit.
risen, unchallenged,
Like, bullshit. Wait, hold on, though, chat.
to the very top of its ranks. John Edward Robinson,
John Edwards Robinson. Has anyone heard of
the
this
internet's
nigga?
first serial killer. In the spring of 1999, a woman left her home to work for a wealthy Kansas businessman she had met online. She told family and friends she was going to be his personal nurse. Then she was gone.
Alright, robot. Hold on, I'm just trying to see
Internet's
this.
first serial killer. In the spring of 1999, a woman left her home to
99.
work for a wealthy Kansas businessman she had met
Huh?
online. She
Whoa.
told family and friends
Why would you work for a wealthy businessman you met online? That is, you know
she was
what?
going to
It's
be his
back in the
personal
day.
nurse.
I'll allow
Then
it.
she was
Back in the
gone.
day.
Messages continued arriving for a while. Strange, stilted messages. And then those stopped too. She was not the first woman to vanish after contact with John Edward Robinson.
John
Robinson
Edward.
had spent decades constructing an image of respectability. In 1977, he forged letters from the mayor's office and a local charitable organization, hosted a formal awards luncheon,
This nigga
and presented
forged
himself with a
charity?
Man of the Year award. He ran business schemes and mentorship programs.
No.
He was married with children, active in civic life,
There's
and
no
by
end
all
to this
appearances, a
nigga.
self-made success. The people whose names he had forged found out when they read about the banquet in the newspaper. Robinson simply moved on to the next scheme. As the internet emerged in the 1990s, Robinson became one of the first predators to weaponize it. He frequented
Wow.
BDSM chat rooms, posing as a wealthy and sophisticated partner. Women across the country trusted him. Some were lured to Kansas under the promise of relationships or employment. They were never seen again. When police searched his rural
Wow.
Kansas property and a storage facility in 2000, they found the bodies of 8 women, some stored in
Wow.
sealed barrels for years.
So
Robinson
you're
was
telling me as soon as the internet dropped, the only thing you could think about was using it to do some wicked shit like this.
arrested,
He's the reason, bro. When you really think about it, he's the reason the internet's not a safe place. He's one of the problems, the original problems.
tried, and convicted on multiple counts of murder.
Nice.
He was sentenced to death in Kansas and to multiple life terms in Missouri. He remains the
Yeah.
clearest early example of a predator who used the internet as his primary hunting ground. A man who had spent decades mastering the art of being
Nah.
trusted and
Imagine being known as the first internet predator. That's actually kind of crazy.
simply transferred that skill online. Randall
Oh,
Brent
yeah.
Woodfield.
Randall Brent Woodfield. Nah, chat. What do you guys think this guy could really have been up to? It's either gonna be some. Nah, it has to be something heinous, game. Like this doesn't even look like a heinous type of guy. Let's
The
see,
I-5
man.
killer. On the
Let's
morning of
see.
January 18th, 1981, two women were found shot
Jeez,
dead inside a
brother.
roadside business
Jeez.
along Interstate 5 in Salem, Oregon. There was no apparent motive, no robbery, no struggle, just cold, calculated execution. It was not the
Jesus.
first, and it would not be the last, in a string of murders, rapes, and robberies
Oh
that
my
stretched the
god, this
entire
nigga
length of
is
the I-5
sick.
corridor from Washington State down through Oregon
I
and
thought
into
it wasn't gonna be
California.
that bad. This nigga is genuinely a threat.
What made this
He
particularly
went on the
chilling
GTA
was who
spree.
Randall Brent Woodfield appeared to be. He had been selected by the Green Bay Packers in the 1974 NFL Draft.
What? He played for the
Tall,
Packers?
handsome, charming, and athletic, with a smile that disarmed people instantly. Women let him in. Businesses trusted him. He looked, by every measure, like a man going somewhere in life. The Packers cut him before the season started, but the image never left him. He carried that golden boy exterior into everything he did. Beneath it was something monstrous. Woodfield would approach victims at their workplaces, often posing as someone with legitimate business before attacking them. His crimes were
Wow.
deeply personal and savage. Investigators linked him to at least 44 sexual assaults and
44
multiple murders across 3 states.
and multiple killings across 3 states. Randall, what the
The sheer
fuck?
geographic spread made him nearly impossible to catch, until forensic evidence and witness descriptions began converging on one man. He was arrested in March
Nigga
1981.
could have
What
played for the
sealed his
Packers,
fate
bro.
was a combination of bite mark evidence, physical forensics, and witness identifications. Woodfield was convicted of murder and sentenced to life plus 90 years. The community was
Jeez.
stunned, not just because of the violence, but because the man responsible had once been the picture of American athletic promise.
That's crazy.
H.H.
man.
Holmes.
H.H. Holmes. Oh, nah. This nigga looks like he was up to no fucking good.
America's first serial killer. In the summer of 1893, millions of visitors poured into Chicago for the World's Columbian Exposition, one of the most celebrated events in American history. The fairgrounds blazed with electric light and staggering architecture that most visitors had never seen before. Tourists arrived from every corner of the country, overwhelmed and wide-eyed. Just a few miles from the fairgrounds, a charming, well-spoken doctor had prepared a hotel just for them. His name was Dr. Henry Howard Holmes.
He was doing it
Medically
from a
educated,
hotel?
elegantly presented, and apparently
Wow, this
generous.
nigga's a
He
joke.
hired women from the city, offered rooms to young female visitors at reasonable rates, and was regarded in the neighborhood as an ambitious, upstanding entrepreneur. He had built the hotel himself, a large
Wow.
3-story building at the corner of 63rd and Wallace Streets that he called the World's Fair Hotel. It was his
World's Fair
crowning
Hotel.
achievement. It was also a killing machine. Holmes,
crazy.
whose real name was Herman Webster Mudgett, had designed the building in deliberate secrecy, rotating construction crews so that no single worker would understand the full layout. Inside,
Wow.
the hotel was a maze of airtight, soundproofed rooms fitted with gas jets he could control from his private office. There were
the
trapdoors,
fuck?
hidden stairways leading nowhere, a
How
chute
did construction get tricked into building this?
from the upper floors directly to the basement,
Must have been
and in that
planning, bro.
basement,
This is
a dissection
insanity.
table, a kiln large enough to incinerate a human body,
What
and
the
vats of
fuck?
acid. He sold his
How
victims'
do you get
skeletons
vats
to
of
medical schools for
acid?
profit. He targeted young women new to the city, employees, guests, fiancés, seduced them, had them sign over insurance policies or transfer their assets, and then they vanished. No
That's
one came looking
crazy.
because no one knew where to look. Holmes left Chicago after the fair ended in 1893, still running schemes across multiple states. He was finally caught in 1894, not for murder, but for insurance fraud. He had conspired with his associate Benjamin Pitezel to fake Pitezel's death and claim a $10,000 insurance payout, then killed Pitezel for real and murdered 3 of his children to cover his tracks.
He killed his children, bro, to cover his own tracks? Nah, this nigga needs to go into
A fellow
fucking
inmate he had
cell.
confided in
What the
tipped off
fuck?
investigators, and Holmes was arrested in Boston. He was tried in Philadelphia and convicted of Pitezel's murder. In custody, he confessed to 27 murders, though historians now believe the confirmed death toll was closer to 9, with the true number likely higher. Holmes sold his confession to the Hearst Newspaper Corporation for $10,000. He was hanged on May 7, 1896, at Moyamensing Prison in Philadelphia. Before his execution, he requested that his coffin be encased in cement and buried 10 feet deep. He said he feared grave robbers. Many have speculated it was the final act of a man who had spent his entire life making people disappear, wanting, at the end, to disappear himself. The World's Fair Hotel burned to the ground in 1895. Andrew Cunanan, the socialite. In the early 1990s, if you moved in the wealthy social circles of San Francisco, you almost certainly knew Andrew Cunanan, or at least knew of him. He was impossible to miss. Devastatingly charming, effortlessly witty, and possessed of a reported IQ of 147, Cunanan had attended the
I have
prestigious
120.
Bishop's School in La Jolla, California on scholarship, where classmates voted him least likely to be forgotten. He spoke
Wow.
multiple languages fluently. He had read the entire encyclopedia by age 10, reportedly,
Wow.
and could hold a conversation on almost any subject at any dinner table in any city. His yearbook
Wow.
quote read, Après moi, le déluge. After me, the flood. By the time he landed in San Francisco, Cunanan had learned something about himself. Wealth was a language he spoke better than almost anyone, even without any of his own. He cultivated relationships with wealthy older men who funded his lifestyle. Sports cars, European trips, designer clothing. In exchange for his company and charm, he was not a kept secret. He was a fixture, invited everywhere, known,
Wow.
liked, and admired by people who had every reason to be selective. He told people his father was an Israeli millionaire. He told people he had connections. He told people many things.
So this nigga was just a LARPer.
And most believed him because he always knew exactly what to say. On April 27, 1997, he killed his first victim, his friend Jeffrey Trail,
What?
in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Friend?
Days later, he killed his former boyfriend, David Madsen. Then
What the
Chicago real
fuck?
estate developer Lee Miglin was found dead in his garage,
Whoa.
his body showing signs of prolonged and deliberate torture. Cunanan needed a vehicle and killed cemetery caretaker William Reese in New
This
Jersey
nigga
for his
just
truck.
started
He was placed on the
wilding.
FBI's 10 most wanted list. And yet on the morning of July 15, 1997, Gianni Versace, one of the most famous fashion designers in the world, walked home from a cafe to his Miami Beach mansion on Ocean Drive, and a man with a pistol approached him on the front steps and shot him twice in the back of the head. Witnesses gave chase.
Goodness.
He disappeared. 8 days later, Cunanan was found dead on a Miami houseboat from a
Holy
self-inflicted
shit.
gunshot wound. He had killed 5 people across 4 states in 3 months. No definitive motive was ever established. He left no note. The FBI found almost nothing among his belongings. He became the man who had spent his life chasing fame and
Why did
admiration,
he just
only to
randomly
draw his last breath
crash?
forgotten on a stranger's boat. And the flood he had promised came only for the people unlucky enough to get close to him. Dean Corll, the Candyman. In the early 1970s, in Houston's Heights neighborhood, there was a man every kid seemed to know. His name was Dean Corll, and he worked at his family's candy company not far from Helms Elementary School.
Oh,
He was
no.
cheerful, soft-spoken, and generous, handing out free sweets to the children of the neighborhood without being asked, letting them hang around the shop, greeting their parents with an easy, familiar smile. Between 1970 and 1973, Dean Corll abducted, sexually tortured, and murdered at least 28 boys and young men from the
What
Heights
the
area,
fuck?
making him, at the time, the most prolific serial killer in American history.
Dude,
Corll did
Dean,
not
what-
act
what
entirely
the
alone.
fuck?
He recruited 2 teenage accomplices, David Brooks and Elmer
Had accomplices while doing this?
Wayne Henley, paying them in cash and gifts to lure boys to his home under the guise of parties. The victims, most of them between 13 and 20 years old, and many from poor or troubled households, were restrained on a specially built torture board, assaulted, and murdered. Their bodies were buried across 3 locations: a rented boat storage shed in southwest Houston, a wooded area near Lake Sam Rayburn, and beaches along the Gulf Coast. When boys vanished from the Heights, police classified them as runaways. No one, seemingly, looked too hard. The crimes came to light because one of Corll's own accomplices turned on him. On August 8, 1973, 17-year-old Elmer Wayne Henley called police after shooting Corll 6 times at his home in Pasadena, Texas.
Whoa, that
He-
nigga wasn't playing games.
He claimed self-defense. Corll had turned on him. Henley and Brooks then led investigators to the burial sites over 2 days, one grave after another, in a procession of horror that shook seasoned investigators to their core. 28 bodies were eventually recovered. A 29th was found a decade later. The full count may never be known. The community was devastated in a way that
That's
went
kinda
beyond
sick,
ordinary
dude.
shock. These were not victims found in some distant city. They were the boys of the Heights, children who had grown up on those streets, who had almost certainly stood in front of the Corll Candy Company and taken something sweet from his hands. The man who had given them candy had also taken everything else. His face, that ever-present smile, had been the last thing many of them ever saw. Dean
Damn,
Corll
RIP,
never
bro.
faced trial. He was
What?
already
Oh, yeah,
dead,
killed.
but the neighborhood he had preyed upon and the families of the boys who never came home were left to carry the weight of a betrayal so complete that it still haunts Houston to this day.
I ain't gonna
If
lie,
you'd
that's
like to see more
disgusting.
videos like this,
That's very disgusting. RIP and prayers to everyone in this video, man. This It's just disgusting, man. What people could turn into, bro. Like I don't even know, bro. It's just crazy, man. W video though, man. Crime Paint. W video. Ado chat. I'm gonna catch y'all niggas in the next one. It's CHR2RT, Faces to Right Nation. I hope you two enjoyed. Make sure y'all like, subscribe, and comment, man.